Hey everybody, welcome back to the Dungeon Dive. Daniel here. All right, this week on the Dungeon Dive, we're going to be focusing on some more small box games. And today we are going to be taking a quick look at Deck Box Dungeons. I am really surprised by how much I enjoy this game. It is very good, highly recommended. So let's read a little bit about this. This says Deck Box Dungeons is a full-featured dungeon crawler that includes character customization, special abilities, and collecting treasure to spend on magical items. Play using the free companion app or print and play quests available online. Kind of a boring description there, but the game is anything but boring. So let's kind of go through some of the things that I really love about the game. I think the first thing is that for a small box, for a single deck of cards in this kind of like there's like a Magic the Gathering pre-built deck size box there. For such a small number of components, you really do get a lot of game here. You get some very good character customization. You get maybe a small amount of enemies, but enough to have a good adventure. You get a small number of treasure cards and a good number of dungeon cards to build your dungeon. The app is free, and the app has a whole bunch of quests that handle how to set up the rooms, how to set up the dungeon as you are exploring, and it also handles all of the random encounters, which are super cool. This small box, using just a small number of cards and an app, gets random encounters more right than a lot of huge box games with hundreds of cards and thousands of chits and huge books of text. This thing really does a lot, and it does it really, really well. So the first thing you're going to do when you're playing the game is you are going to create a character. And the way you create a character is pretty cool. You have a number of different cards. So my characters right now, I was playing as Avalon, and he is an Oathsworn, and I armed him with a sword and shield. I'll talk about the dice in a minute because those are extra. And then I was also playing, if you're playing solo, you do want to play with two characters. I'm playing with Neva. She's a wanderer, and she is armed with a longbow there. But then you also have a number of other characters. So you have Fianna and Garrick and Dunail and Delith. And so these characters are going to have a certain number of stats for you to look at. You're going to have what kind of bonus you're going to add to their melee attacks, what kind of bonus will be added to their range attacks, a bonus for defense, their speed, which is their movement. And then you have a few stats over here, such as strength, dexterity. I think that's like knowledge or charisma and wisdom, I think it is, or maybe intelligence. So you have your standard kind of like D&D stats. Once you pick a character that's going to give you your base stats, then you're going to augment that character with kind of a class. It's a set of special abilities. So you have Elemental Mage, a Berserker, a Temporal Mage, an Assassin. On the backside of the Wanderer, you have a Monk character. And then on the backside of the Oathsworn, you also have a Wayfinder. So once you get that, you're going to put the character cards together like this, and then whichever kind of a class you selected with the abilities, those are going to give you bonuses to your stats, to your kind of like your non-combat stats. And those are going to be used when you do kind of skill checks in the app. Very cool. After you do that, you're going to arm your character with a certain weapon. You have a battle axe, chain darts, a mace and shield, or a great sword, a frost staff or a lightning staff. And then here we also had a longbow and daggers, and a sword and shield, and a war hammer. So once you pick your weapon, well, then you're going to say, so let's say I wanted to be this, Garrick was a temporal mage with the frost staff. So that's going to give you your character. Your weapon is going to add certain bonuses to your attack skills, such as melee, ranged, defense, and some will add to your movement For instance, the sword and shield is kind of heavy, so you're going to lose 1 speed or 1 movement point for that. Then that's going to be your character. So there are quite a few combinations. You do have to think and choose, because you can't use all of the combinations because things are printed on the fronts and backs. You can buy 2 boxes and combine them, so that way you have all of your options, and you can select that you have 2 boxes in the app to make the dungeons bigger. And if you also wanted to play 4 players, because the box really only supports, I guess it does support 4 players. Yeah, I guess you could play 4 players with this. I was thinking you had to have 2 boxes to play 4, but I don't think that may be the case. But after you do that, then you're going to take these cards here and you're going to slot these cards underneath your blue card here. That's going to be where you keep track of your energy. Energy is a currency that you earn every time you hit a monster in combat. You earn a point of energy, and then you can spend that energy to do these special abilities. So that's kind of how your characters will be different from each other. Then you have a health card, so you will slot this underneath your health to keep track of your health. And then you have a treasure card, and you're going to slot this under your weapon. Every time you kill an enemy, you're going to roll a d6, a special d6, and whatever the number is, you're going to get that many treasure points. And then those treasure points, those are a currency that you can spend on buying treasure. Now, most of the treasure in the game is pretty basic. It's mostly utility one-use items such as health potions, energy potions, a couple scrolls for magic spells and things like that, a couple rings. So if there's one place where the game is really limited, it is in the items. And I would like to see maybe a small expansion, like a booster pack expansion of just cool items to buy to help augment your characters a little bit more. But I also do kind of like that the deck is a little bit limited and focused on utility, kind of application use items, because it is important to build up your treasure and then being able to buy these to heal, being able to buy these to really get a lot of energy. Like buying this for 8 treasure to instantly gain 10 energy points can really be a life changer, a lifesaver in the adventure. This fireball scroll will for 5 did an area of effect attack, and this really saved my butt in one adventure. So while the treasure is limited, it is also very useful. There are also a couple of runes here. You have a blue, yellow, red, and green. And these are used by the app. These are kind of like all-purpose miscellaneous MacGuffin items that you will be able to earn in a quest to maybe trigger a certain type of attack or a certain ability. For instance, in this quest here I was playing, I could have passed a certain skill check. I could have gotten like a red rune, and then once I'm facing the boss, then I could have used that red rune to give me an advantage in that particular combat. So those are kind of cool. Those multi-use cards are pretty cool. And then you also get a whole bunch of a deck of dungeon tiles, and those are all double-sided, and they have different paths. You have spike traps, where if you go into those, you take damage. You have these little wooden bridges that can help. You have water impede your movement. And these kind of like little circle symbols there, those are where monsters are going to spawn when the app tells you to spawn monsters. And you will always spawn one monster on those when the app tells you to, and then you will spawn randomly monsters around them. So that's how the monsters get out onto the board. So there is quite a bit of options in how you set up your character, how you pick your skills and your weapons. And there are also quite a few quests, and we're going to go over the quests in a little bit more detail in just a minute. And then as far as the enemies go, this is one place where I think this game really is kind of a stroke of genius in how the enemies work. So there are 8 enemies. There are 2 blue enemies and 2 green enemies, and they have a front and back. So there are 2 blue melee enemies, the Forsaken and the Ravager. There are 2 blue ranged enemies. You have the Talon and the Bone Snipe. There are 2 green ranged enemies. So you have Arrowhead and the Zealot there. And then there are 2 green melee enemies. You have the Slip Thief and the Cultist. And then there are 2 bosses, and the bosses are kind of like a race, a species, and they will become certain bosses in the app. You have a Riptooth and you have a Lich Overlord. So the way you figure out which monsters you're going to fight is when you go into a room, and we'll go over the app in just a minute. You go into a room, and the app might tell you to spawn 2 green monsters and 1 blue monster. And the monsters are going to be depicted by dice. And so you roll, and then you look at the dice, and that tells you what kind of monster. So this is a green melee monster with 2 hit points. And then you would go ahead and put that on your card. And so now you know that you have a green melee monster with 2 hit points. And at the beginning of the app, or anytime you can press a button, you can see which of the melee monsters that particular quest is using. So you could keep all of your monster cards out. And in this case, maybe this green melee would be a Slip Thief with 2 health points. This blue would be a ranged monster with 2 hit points. So then you would consult your blue monster range card to figure out which monster you were fighting. That is super cool. I absolutely love this system. I want to see this system used in more small box games. And the combat actually is kind of cool. There is some kiting. There is a little bit of strategy in how you move around the map, how you can draw enemies out, how you can corner enemies to get them. You can corner ranged enemies if you play smartly. There are actually quite a few options you have in combat, and the combat is pretty cool. It's simple. Your character and their weapon are going to tell you how many dice they roll. So in this instance here, I would be rolling 2 dice for my ranged attack and adding 1 to each. And basically, you're going to roll, and you need 6s to hit. So this 5 would adding 1 for my bonus would be a 6. So that dice would be a hit. That dice would be a miss. And then what you do is when the enemy will have a chance to defend. So if you were going against this Talon here, they have a +2 to their defense. They roll 1d6. They add 2. And if that is a 6, then they block. And so it kind of goes back and forth like that. And then as you hit your enemies, you will be, so if this was a ranged monster with 3 health, you would, if you hit them, you would move it down to 2 health. Then you would move it down to 1 health. And then the next hit, they would die. Once they're dead, you take their d6, you roll it, and you get that many treasure points. Just really smart use of the custom d6 dice and regular d6. I absolutely love that system in this game. I think it is so cool. And another thing that I really like is the app. The app has cool sounds. It makes kind of like this. It's got an atmospheric soundtrack of wind howling and noises and stuff. So really cool in the background. But the app is going to show you. So as you are going through the game, you're going to start here, and you're going to go on these green squares here. That's where you're going to start. So that would be down here. And then as you're going through, you click the app, you click the room that you're in, and it tells you what is in that room. So here I explored here. I would click there, and it says there's a group huddled around a small fire. Spawn 1 blue and 2 green enemies. So I killed those enemies. Then I moved over here. I explored over here. And then here it says that in the center of a gore-splattered room, a device made from a whirlwind of blades spins. In the center of the steel twister is a glowing yellow runestone that pulses with power. Perhaps it will give you an advantage against Rogomp. So Rogomp was the troll I was trying to kill, and he was represented by this Riptooth enemy card there. Okay, so you have to spawn 4 blue enemies, and then when a hero is adjacent to the spawn symbol, that's like the trap. And you can attempt an intelligence 3 check or an agility 2 check to snatch the rune from the trap. So really cool. It has non-combat encounters represented in the app. And then the way you do your skill challenges is you always roll 4d6. and you're looking for sixes. Any six is a hit, and then you can add your bonus from your character and their class to each of those dice to try to get as many sixes as you can. And you're looking for a number here. You would need 3, or there you would need 2. Then if you pass that check, you get that rune that you can use later. And then I moved over here, and in this room, this was a really cool room. So this room, this like generic tile, which doesn't have a lot of going on, but the app adds a really cool random event for this tile. And that says you spawn 2 blue monsters and 3 green. And this is the Alchemist's layer. So every time a hero rolls no hits on an attack, you roll a d6, and then this random stuff happens. So either nothing can happen, maybe you smashed some vials on accident. You have to make an agility 2 check. If you fail, take a hit. You smash some poison or something. Or a homunculus that the alchemist had trapped in a bottle escapes. So you have to spawn an additional green enemy. Perhaps you found a healing vial while you were fighting. You can gain a health. Maybe you broke open an acid beaker. All enemies and heroes in this room take 1 hit. Or maybe you caused an explosion by hitting the wrong potion. All enemies in the room take 1 hit. Really, really cool. So then I explored up here. This room here. So this room also had an exit over here, but you can't go back because I found the end. And then in this room here was a scream catches your attention. You have found a lost villager. So this is the lost villager on 4B. The villager stumbles into a trap while reaching for something shiny. The hero who discovered the room takes 2 hits, but all the heroes can split 4 treasure between them. Okay, really cool little random event there. And then finally here we have the final battle against the troll. And you have some cool rules and some special things that you will have to overcome to kill the troll. And then if you go down here to this little notebook page, it tells you all of the special rules for the quest. And then it tells you which enemies are going to be represented by each die. And then when you beat the quest, you can hit the ending here. And if you are victorious, you can read this: with a mighty roar, Rogump collapses slain. There will be much celebration to the villages surrounding the dungeons tonight. As you begin to leave, you notice Rogump was a collector of all things shiny. It wouldn't hurt if you helped yourself. Or if all of the heroes die, that's mainly how you lose in the game. It says your bones will join the rest of the foolish adventurers that dared to enter this dungeon in the vile Rogump's larder. And then you could exit out and you could quit that quest. So the app has a number of quests. You have the Troll Trial. That's the one I did. You can set the number of heroes you want. Let's see, 3 or 4. Oh yeah, so I was right. So 2 core sets are required to play with 3 or 4 heroes. You can adjust your collection in the settings. And then it also tells you that at 1 hero you can play, but it'll be very difficult. And I agree with that. You really do need to play with 2 heroes. You have a chest full of gold. You have Escort the Priest, Collapsing Caves, Dark Magic, Phantoms, Monster Menagerie, The Ballad of Kaldar, Alien's Tale, Dunal's Story. So these are specific to those specific heroes. So when you go into this quest, you always want to make sure that you're playing that hero. Neva's Yarn, Salmarin's Dirge, Delith's Saga, Fianna's Gambit, Garrick's Ramble. And then in exploration mode, you spot the entrance to a strange dungeon you had not noticed before and decide to investigate. This is just a randomly generated dungeon. If you want to play a quick game, you can go through a small dungeon, a medium dungeon, or a large dungeon if you have 2 boxes. So really cool. It has like just a completely random quest mode. Another thing that a lot of big box modern dungeon crawls don't have. This small, tiny game has it. Just what a wonderful use of an app. This is a perfect use of an app. How an app for a small game, like if you were traveling, you're going to have your phone on you, of course. You can easily put this in your bag, and then you have kind of a full-featured little dungeon crawl to play in a hotel room. And this is it's a perfect implementation of an app, and I want to see more small games like this. So I did want to check something live because I don't know how much randomness there is in each adventure. So let's start a new game of the Troll Trial, which I have already played. And let's see if there's any, how much difference there is. So the starting tile, I believe, is always the same at 1A. And it's going to tell you that the room doesn't have anyone or anything in it. So then you can explore. So let's say we were to explore, and right away, the tile that it's telling me to use is different. So let's see if the random encounter is different. Yes, it was slightly different, I believe. A monster camp, it was a different type of enemies. Okay, so already this is going to be different because we can't explore this way. So we would explore this way. And then we would find this tile here. And it would have a different, so let's see. So this is similar. So you still can get the Bane of Rogump. You still can get that rune to help you. Let's explore over here. The Alchemist. Okay, so it looks like it is pulling from a pool, but the way that the map lays out is definitely going to be different. If you explored here, the Lost Villager. If you explored here, you would have, okay, so there's your final battle. So that would be the final battle. So the map does look different. I'm not quite sure how the pool of random encounters, how big it is. If it's pulling from the same ones for all of the game, for all of the quests, or if it is pulling from a custom set for each quest, I'm not sure. I haven't played the game enough yet to determine that. However, if you want the game and you are like just diametrically opposed to apps, you can also download PDFs that have versions of the quests that you can just play with paper, and you can set up your map like that. I think the app just adds so much to the game, and I prefer it. I'm hoping they continue to update it with new quests and new random encounters. I would love to see kind of an environmental expansion, maybe just an expansion with a few more monsters or a few more items. But overall, I am super pleasantly surprised with Deckbox Dungeons. I think it is a lot of fun. It doesn't take up a lot of space. I prefer to keep my characters like this and use dice to keep track of their treasure, health, and energy. I just find it a lot easier than using these cards to slide up and down. It just gets a little messy and cumbersome. But I know some people will sleeve their card and then put the other card in the sleeve behind it and pull it like that, and that works. But yeah, if you're looking for a really cool small box dungeon crawl that does kind of offer a full feature of the things that we like in these games, you could do a lot worse than Deckbox Dungeons. I also do recommend going to the website and printing out the rules. It's just a little easier to read than the tiny little rule book, which I seem to have missed. Oh, here it is. The tiny little rule book is a little small and a little hard to read, and I just found the game is very easy, but I found that just using this to learn the game much easier. Sorry guys, well, I hope you liked that look at Deckbox Dungeons. It is another small box dungeon crawl that I can highly recommend. It's like 25 bucks. I got it on Amazon, and it's a game that I'm going to return to often. So take it easy guys. We'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.